see your hand up. You don't want to be a billionaire? Jesus Christ of Saple. You don't want to be a billionaire? You want to be a billionaire, sir? Okay, if we made an announcement outside before today and said, we are going to teach you how to double your money today. Do you know this place will be filled up? You know that? There used to be a Ponzi scheme. Sorry to say, I was not the one that spearheaded it, but I partook in it, and I gained a lot of money from it, sorry to say. In Isashi then, the guy came out and said, if you give me ₦1 million, I can give you 5 million in 3 weeks. So a friend of mine knows that I'm a very inquisitive person. So he said, his name is Casey. He said, I'm going to tell Dr. this thing, but he's the kind of person that will ask me, have you benefited from it? So he tried it. He put in 500,000 then and got in 2 million. So he came to me. All he did is just send me screenshots. I said, Casey, this one you're sending me 2.5 million screenshot. Are you sending me money? He said, no. There's something that's happening in Sashi right now, not far from your house. The man's name is this. And I said, really? I said, does it work? I said, if it doesn't work, you will pay me my money. I'm willing to invest as much as possible, but I want to speak to the person. So we went to the man's office, sat me down. He said, this my friend has a lot of money. He can put in 100 million naira. So went there. I said, okay. I talked to the wife of the owner, and she said, okay, don't put in 10 million at a time. Spread it 1 million each. I said, okay, I'm going to test your company. Where do you stay? He said, I stay at Isashi. We used to stay at Gospel. I looked at it. Where's your house of Gospel? But his story checked out to be true, and I said, okay, let's give it a will. It's just 3 weeks. I put the first 1 million naira. And in exactly 21 days, I got 5 million naira a lot. I was like, Jesus Christ of God. This is good money. And we tried it a couple times. It worked. But I'm the kind of person I know such kind of things do not last. So it will definitely fail. So I was getting wiser. Some people came in, they put in 25 million. There's a guy in Alaba, put in 25 million, got 125. He just hung his boots. So those kind of deals started affecting the man. He wasn't doing anything illegal. What he did is he bought this drilling device, invested in a lot of things. So when you pay him money, he puts it in the business, and he immediately gets proceeds, he pays you back. But such a business only sustains when there's continuity. Do you understand? So we'll be talking about some of those things that will help you double your money, not an illegal way. Do you understand? So I want you to follow me closely. I came from a relatively stable home financially. I always say this anywhere I go, and God blessed us, let me put it that way. But I've always heard people say, when a wise man, I said it the other time at Shank, someone was looking at me, when a wise man is advising his child, when a rich man is advising his child, the poor man's child is just standing beside and listening. Then the stupid rich boy they are talking to is not paying any attention. So I said, no, I was not going to be like that. I want to be different. Despite the fact that I come from a relatively stable home financially, I would not allow that position get into my head. So I said, I'm not going to collect money from home. I just gained admission. No, I think I was in year 2 then, 96. And I said I was not going to collect money from home. And my father is a very, very strict person. He's the kind of person that he believes it's a man's responsibility to take care of the family, pay school fees. I come from a competitive environment to go through, let me put it this way. When I was from primary 4, we were going through a lot of competition. My school was highly competitive, and most of the times, they give us scholarships. And my circle of friends were quite intelligent. So all they say, Louis, I'm more intelligent than you. I said, no, during federal government, I blasted you now. What did you get? I beat you like 4 times. You came second. Do you understand? So it got to a stage where if they want to win, they don't invite me. So there was this competition we had. It was then Bendel State. And they did not tell us till a day to the event. The maths teacher called me and said, Louis, are you enrolled for this competition? I said, no. Then who is going for our school? I said, I didn't even know anything was like that happened. And my mother liked those kind of things. She was always pushing me forward. God bless her so. Majority of the success I can say I've attained today is because of the training she gave. So she said, get your shoes ready, get everything ready. I said, it's just tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. She said, don't worry, I trust my son. And that word rang in my head. I started feeling fly. I said, if my mother trusts me, then that means everything is settled. We went for the competition. I won. And I told the other guy, his name is Enaro. I said, Enaro, I told you so. If I'm here, I'll beat you. So just do everything you can. It was pride then. We didn't understand a lot of things, but I enjoyed it. But you know the painful parts? I never fully took any of these scholarships because my father said, I will not have a child that government will train. I will raise the child myself. And each time they take that thing from me, my friend will just be standing by the side and it's like, this is like what happened in the Bible. Jesus fought for us, but we took the glory, so he's taking the glory. And I'll go home and I'll start crying. I hated my father for that. But now I begin to understand some things. that he did then. Like now, even in my kids' school, there are some things I will not allow. No matter how brilliant they are, there are certain responsibilities I want to take myself. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So I want to pay attention. There are some things I learned in life, not just because I started doing business or certain things pretty early, because even my decision not to collect money from home was very, very, let me say, I was my dad's worst enemy. That's why I tried to avoid that kind of occurrence to my son. By the way, Brother Zuka, it's raining, no? So this means they are stick to good. So it's raining, so just know. We should have it as, I think the next Men's Day we should get umbrellas. We should do that. So we were always quarreling, not because I was not a good son. I would say by men's standards I was relatively good, but I was always too inquisitive. We say, what do you know? How old are you? Who are you speaking I want to pay this for my kids. He didn't have that training. Many of us see it as a problem, but it's actually good training. So the moment they retired him, just 2 years, he didn't understand what was happening. I'm used to having a cash flow of well over how much, and I don't know how to go about it. And sorry to say, he's late now. He didn't stay 5 years past because he could not cope. And the story is the same. There's a woman that stays close to my house. He worked with PHN or then NEPA. Everything was taken care of. I remember the other day, the child was ill, and she was now lamenting, talking to the mother. Their father's long gone. And she said, Mommy, I remember when you used to work with NEPA. We don't pay NEPA bills. We don't pay hospital bills. And now they have to go to the clinic. They didn't know that you even have to get a card. They were not aware. So I was like, oh, you don't know you should get a card. That's when I understood that because of the experience they've had, the luxury they've had, the luxury now became like an imprisonment. So it's difficult. Like now, my wife knows her. What does she sell? What does Mommy G sell? Okra. You can imagine someone that was a top person in NEPA then. The change was just too sharp. So at times, even if you get some kind of blessings, I was saying the other time that God answers all my prayers. I'm not exaggerating, so I'm very careful how I pray. And there's some kind of prayers you pray that the answers will just come. You don't have the responsibility to manage it. It now becomes more like a problem. I don't use the word of curse. Do you understand? So if we know, regardless of what you do, I just mentioned Pure Water as one business. Now a lot of us will say, one day, I would hammer. But now you have a lot of time. I was asking at Peer and Care session one time, I said, what is one thing you have that Elon Musk doesn't have? And somebody said time. That is true. When I was I think in 94, I just finished secondary school then. I liked Bill Gates so much because he was so successful then. I didn't know the details about his personality, but I liked the fact that he was a good businessman. By the way, he's a dropout, so it's not because of the fact that he was so good in computing that made him that. He's a good business person. So I decided to study this man. I was supposed to bring it here since 94. I still have it. Most of the things I do today is because of the things I wrote then. There's some things I wrote I would not do. I will not collect chieftaincy title. I will not take loans. I will not do this. I will not get involved in politics. If I didn't write those things now, the urge to do them now is so strong. If not for the fact that, okay, I lost my dad and by inheritance I had to take his title. Those are things I will not involve myself in. I know how many times political parties have come and say, okay, come, let's do this together. There's this time, I think he's still contesting for this 2027. I won't mention his name. Somebody told him that he should come to me, that I know some people I can talk to that will help him win the last election they did. Do you understand? The last election. So he came. He actually pitched. I still have his voice notes on my phone. He actually pitched, and I was like, who sent you to me? He now said, somebody from Delta said I used to do so and so thing, that if I spoke to people, they would listen to him. And I said, okay, go ahead. He talked. By the time he was done, I told him, I have to be very honest with you. I'm not convinced. You can't take this country anywhere. He was like, no, why are you saying this? I have this. I said, first of all, you don't even believe that you can take care of this country. You're just speaking English. That's not exactly what I think. Personally, though I'm not a politician, but if I was even going to support you, he got upset. Don't worry, I'll win the election without you, blah, 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 blah. And that I just mentioned that because in life, there are some little things you need to know that we all take for granted. Let me not deviate. There's so much to talk about. Let me go back. I said, first of all, you have to earn a living. The second thing, which is quite important, you have to take responsibility. In this part of the world, we do not take responsibility. I asked a guy one time, I said, why are you in the way I've not seen you in 10 years and I'm seeing you like this, and why are you like this? He said, if my father was wealthy, if I was born in Canada, if only that man gave me that contract. See, when you think like that, let me tell you a mindset. There's something called psychosomasis, where your mind tells your body how to relate. When we learned it in school, in med school, I'm a very practical person, so I went to my room. I said, if psychosomasis is really real, okay, I checked my vitals, everything was stable, and I said, I am sick. I started meditating on it. Before 30 minutes, I was shaking. I was shaking so much, I wanted to buy drugs. I said, no, let's try it if it works the other way around. Trust it was harder for it to work, for the sickness to stop, because I was really shivering today. So my roommate came and said, Felix, what's happening? I left this place like an hour ago and you were. I said, don't worry, it is well, I'll be fine. But I wanted to make sure. It took me actually 2 days to be able to talk it the other way. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it just works like that. But I learned a valuable lesson that day. Your mindset controls a lot of things that happens in the physical. That's why even if you're working in surgery, okay, I have a patient that's going to be, that she should be in the OT now. She's going to have cesarean. But she's the kind of person that how do I put it? Pastor, a lot of people don't believe in CS. They believe that, no, in this generation and age, I want to deliver like the Hebrew woman. Do you understand? But medicine has advanced to such a level that it is very possible not to have any maternal death. Very possible, if only we will have sense. These days I tell patients, I say, once you get to 30, theoretically 35, but if I look at your statue and I say, once you get to 30, I advise against vaginal birth. I tell you, it's not wrong. You can have vaginal birth. It's not a problem. But wouldn't you want to have a process where you are fine, your baby is fine, you both walk out of the hospital room perfectly, no issues. And a lot of people are like, but let me tell you what some people do not know. I'm going to be putting a lot of medical things in between because somehow it's intertwined. When the woman is pushing, a lot of people feel the baby just relaxing. Okay. So, okay, man, this woman just keep pushing, I'll come out soon. It doesn't work like that. The baby is also pushing. That's why if a woman is giving birth to 3, the doctor will insist she does cesarean. Because the third baby starts pushing with the first, and the woman is pushing. So the third baby is usually the weakest. Not that he had medical deformities. A couple of days I had a not so pleasant news from one of my patients in Ilorin. She said she lost her baby. And we tried to warn against that. I get very personal with them. I always draw their ears. Now you are pregnant. If your water breaks at 2 a.m., if you cannot get an Uber, call me. I'll call an Uber to take to the hospital within 10 minutes. But many times when the water breaks, there's no sign, there's no pain, there's no contraction. So nothing there. I sang this to her ear. She's pretty stubborn. She used to be one of our surrogates in Lagos. So I told her, when your water breaks, you are pregnant now. Make sure you find. So her water broke around 12:01, midnight. She told the husband, honey, water broke. All these OPC boys are going to disturb us for a road. Let's just wait. Are you feeling any pains, honey? She said, no pains. Any blood? No blood. They waited till around 7 a.m.